I just realized I forgot to do this one, which was androgen insensitivity syndrome. This one's actually really interesting. Okay, so with androgen insensitivity, this is a genetic disorder in which the person makes androgens, but the receptors for androgens are unable to respond to the androgens. So you're going to have to pay attention to this one. It's a really interesting thing, and it allows you to sort of broaden your mind about sex differentiation in ways that are confusing, but also that's where growth is occurring. So here's the deal. With a person with androgen insensitivity, sometimes called AIS, androgen insensitivity syndrome, or CAIS, complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, what you have is you have, move myself over. You have this situation in which the person is XY, right? So typically that would develop into an anatomical male. But what happens is the presence of testosterone is there, but it cannot cause development of anything because the receptors for testosterone are not there. So what ends up happening is you get a person. So that part actually doesn't work. Testosterone is there, but you can't respond to testosterone. So the male reproductive structures never actually complete their development during fetal development. Okay. And so what you get is you get this strange little situation in which I actually do have MIH, also called MIS. Remember that is going to cause regression of the Mullerian ducts. So this person is not going to have oviducts and a uterus. So that works because it's not those receptors that are broken. But the other thing that happens is testosterone does not cause the complete development of the male reproductive structures. So you may or may not remember or have learned in anatomy that the clitoris and the penis are mostly homologous structures. Not exactly. There's a little bit of ductwork that's different between them. And under the presence of testosterone and the response to testosterone, the penis is going to develop fully into something that looks like a penis. In the absence of testosterone, it's going to look more like a clitoris. The other thing that can happen is, or does happen, is that the process of testes or ovaries developing, those are not going to complete their differentiation from ovaries to testes without responding to testosterone. So what they're going to be is kind of these undecided, undifferentiated gonads that are still up in the abdominopelvic cavity. So they're kind of non-functional ovaries or testes that never drop. So they don't drop. So the important thing to understand is with someone with complete androgen insensitivity, and there is variation in this like everything else, complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, what's going to happen is that this person is going to be born with external genitalia that looks more female than male. It may even look completely female because the default anatomical sex in humans is female. It looks female. But the ovaries are not going to be, or the gonads are not going to be fully functional because they never got either the support of the female reproductive functionality finishing or the male reproductive functionality finishing. So we've got these gonads that are never going to completely function as they would in either sex. And then internally, everyone started out with the blind vagina. It is the presence of testosterone that makes it completely degenerate. After MIH makes the other stuff degenerate. So this person's still going to have a blind vagina. It's actually much shorter than a typical vagina, and the cervical structure is going to be closer to the vaginal opening, and no uterus, no oviducts or fallopian tubes. They're going to be born, and they're probably going to look just like a girl, and you're going to name them a girl name. And typically speaking, no one goes looking around for a uterus when a baby's born. So these people are XY, but they are anatomically, especially with complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, anatomically pretty female looking. They do have some concerns though, and sometimes they don't know that this is actually occurring until the girl hits puberty and doesn't ever menstruate, and then take them to a gynecologist, and the gynecologist figures out very quickly that it's a blind vagina and no uterus. But these undifferentiated gonads, the testes slash ovaries, they're not really either, have a really high rate of cancer. So you're going to need to tell the girl something, and she's probably going to need surgery to remove those. And then after surgery, you have to replace estrogens for the rest of the girl's life to maintain the normal female's reproductive structure. So why estrogens? Remember that estrogens are just converted androgens, and if you never respond to the androgens, you'll just do more and more conversions. So interestingly, by the time these girls hit puberty, they have quite a bit of estrogen because the androgens don't work and they continue getting converted into estrogens. And there are some famous people with androgen insensitivity syndrome. This is, and I'm not outing her, she is actually out. Oh, by the way, sometimes these people consider themselves intersex because their sexual development was something between a typical anatomical female and a typical anatomical male. Generally speaking, there are exceptions, of course. They gender identify as female. But, that's up to the individual to choose. But this is one of the developmental categories that can categorize as intersex, because their sex organs and their hormones and their reproductive structures are not absolutely typically anatomically and physiologically and chromosomally male or female. So this is androgen insensitivity syndrome. I can't quite remember her name. I'll have to look it up. She let it be known that she was that she had this disorder. I didn't do this for her. Okay.